Alex Answer here. It is September 13th in the year 2017. Good morning and good afternoon. A lot of news and information that we're going to be covering regarding the sun this early morning. Now, not a lot of people know, but the sun has been a lot more active than it is normally in this particular part of the cycle. We're going into a solar minimum, but the sun is active. Scientists and observers are wondering if the sun is doing something wrong. I think we are still, humanity is still in its infancy regarding knowledge about the sun. How do we know that the sun is in fact doing something wrong? Maybe the fact of the matter is that the sun is doing exactly what it's supposed to be doing. But without further ado, let's first start by playing this video from Newsweek. And we may have, some internet issues, some hardware issues. But what's more important, let's go ahead and go over some of the information here then. Okay, moving on. The sun blasted out 7 massive solar flares in as many days in an extraordinary period of space weather that has sparked stunning geomagnetic storms above the Earth. Between September 4th and September 11th, in just this last week, NASA observed 7 flares, all classed in its strongest X category. Okay, so for those that recall Hurricane Katrina, there was an X class solar flare. There's also an X class solar flare right before Fukushima. For those with interest regarding weather weapons, I think where the X marks the spot is where we see an increase in solar activity and allegations of tampering. Going back to this article, though, we saw an X 9.3, a very significant event. The latest, an X 8.2, also a significant flare. Peaked at 12:06 Eastern Daylight Time on September 10th. It prompted warnings of possible radio blackouts from Space Weather Prediction Center. From the Space Weather Prediction Center, which we'll look at right now, which also issued a geomagnetic storm for today and tomorrow, which is Thursday. So here we have spaceweather.com. At least the website should be up. Having multiple windows. See, we have this modern technology, but we have computers that act like they don't even have enough data to even show an article in some anomaly situations, like when we're going live and the very same page that I was talking about is totally blank as it is now. It's like, the memory loss that we're dealing with regards to certain human beings. Yes, let's go look at the beautiful X-class solar flare. So, yeah, for those of you that are new to this is definitely a very interesting time to be alive, to see the culmination of different events. And I say this often. I try to remember to say this in every video. Discussions about the sun and the change that it brings. And there are many changes. So there's different areas of conversation that I bring to the table that you don't get from the mainstream media. There are positive and perceivable negative effects based on your outlook on how the sun affects us. So, there are natural ways in which the sun can have a positive impact on our physical bodies. Our physical bodies. There can be a positive impact on our mood. There can be something that somebody may perceive to be an adverse effect. For example, someone could be having insomnia. Someone could be having issues sleeping, right? But if they're receiving new energy and ideas, if their insomnia comes from a deep, lucid dream state to where there's either a vision or knowledge, is that a negative thing that they lost a little bit of sleep? Is it really all that negative? There's some things that I may call psychic attacks. Is it really all that negative if we're starting to see evidence of actual human to human telepathy, of which I have seen evidence of even between myself and some of the YouTube listeners. Real time audience of telepathy. It may come in the form, right, of an attempted psychic attack, but it comes based on the reality that we're all connected. We're connected emotionally. So let's go back to this article here. The sun blasted out 7 massive solar flares in as many days in an extraordinary period of space weather that has sparked stunning geostorms above the Earth. So I would various hypotheses to what's coming to our nation. Because it gets kind of lonely off the grid. I'd like to hear from like minds that are starting to see the patterns. And I'm going to get back to this report, but there's a reason I don't listen to others in the alternative media. I'm hearing too much disinformation about other planets and theories, and it doesn't really seem grounded and down to earth. And the solar flare discussion sounds really ground to earth, down to earth. It's something that I can measure, if you will. We could see the effects of the sun on various aspects of our world, and it's not all negative. It seems that sometimes people party really hard and want to go out and hang out with their friends and go travel around. Let's talk about some other stuff. So, if people are only looking at the sun from a occult perspective or a conspiracy perspective, what about people that get underneath the sun and they like have a few beers and they have a barbecue when the sun is warm? Is that evil too? Are they worshiping the sun as they sit out on the beach and have a barbecue as they go and travel? That is a mammalian biological response to the sunlight. Now, when we start talking about the solar maximum and flares, it's really still the same conversation about how we're impacted by this light, but it goes even deeper. How are we affected biologically by the light? Biologically, hormonally, and and I'm one of the few that raises this question, which is why some people don't take this information seriously, but that's okay. I'm not going to be, upset about that, but I'm going to bring it up on occasion. The powers that be, whoever they are, whatever they are we being watched by aliens, if you will? Look at previous videos of mine. Look at last night's topic. Are they using the knowledge about the solar flares to manipulate events here on the Earth as they siphon human emotion? So that's the only speculation that I'll bring to this channel. I understand not everybody's ready for that, but you're going to get the outside the box perspective when you come here. So I saw this and I knew this needed to be at least addressed in this video. Solar flares may explain mass whale stranding. Let's take a closer look. This is something that I also mentioned in my solar flare presentation, the slides. I talked about whales, birds, and other animals. When we see changes to the Earth's magnetic field, sometimes they end up in waters, stranded on beaches, places where they normally don't go because their navigation is thrown off. There's also discussion about the changes in the magnetic poles and periods in which there's fluctuations. And they say that it's moving 40 miles per year towards Siberia. Ironic, Russia has been flirting with the idea of moving their capital to Siberia. Very interesting. What's going on with that? Higher level oligarch advanced knowledge of energy, I suppose. But let's take a look at this. A solar storm currently affecting the Earth's high atmosphere could spell bad news for an unexpected victim, whales. Recent research finds that the fatal stranding of 29 whales in early 2016 could have been caused by solar activity, when mind-boggling amounts of energy erupt from the sun in various forms. Magnetic waves emanating from solar storms may affect sperm whale navigation, that study found. The navigational confusion can be deadly if whales end up swimming into too shallow waters and get stuck. A beach whale. Interesting. Very interesting to see this confirmation of what so many of us have suspected for years. And we may have sounded crazy when we took to our YouTube channels, and I took to my YouTube channel and I put out a slideshow presentation and people thought it was code for sun worship. Or something of the occult, when there's actual science that's actually like confirming what I consider to be elements of my life's work and research. It's a difficult time to be alive because I feel like, this work isn't really being supported or understood, but it's also a time to see a lot of verification, whatever the topic is. We'll get back to the article, but this is a time where I'm seeing so much of my work verified, whether it be the geopolitical discussions, people being more interested in living off the grid, people looking for psychic self-defense information, people looking at why they're feeling certain feelings during the solar flares and how the solar flares are affecting our planet. Still, a lot of people in the alternative media don't know flares are aligned with staged events. I'm still a pioneer with regards to that topic, still something that even David Icke will avoid. It's interesting how they have these really bizarre moon theories and other theories, but one of the most basic fundamental things that we can look at, like a real light, not these false light theories or speculations based on channeled messages, but we look at the actual sun's activity and statistical information on the wars, the invasions, the civil unrest, the Occupy movements. Pattern recognition, ladies and gentlemen, this is my contribution to the information sharing that you are experiencing, whether you are watching this live or watching this on playback. And the playback is always better than the live version. Okay? No hiccups, solid stream. Share the video with your friends and family, okay? Because you can help in the sharing of information. It's not really about myself. I can point you to people like Burl Payne. I can point you to people like Alexander Chavinsky. I can point you to people like Dr. Robert Becker, and I have. And the information is there. Really a conduit for this. I'm not talking about comic book stuff. I'm talking about infiltration of Magna Fox. Perhaps needs an update. It's just really interesting trying to stay on. It's really interesting how we have these computers that supposedly should be like, and they seem to be challenged to a certain degree psychologically, cognitively, like some of the humans just remember where they were at, kind of like memory loss. So let's go over here. Biggest solar flare in a decade causes radio blackout. So I don't have the article up here, but it also apparently there's an earthquake swarm in Idaho, and it seems that I often see news regarding Yellowstone when we see an increase in solar activity. And a lot of people don't connect it with the solar activity that are on YouTube. Again, there's an overemphasis in conspiratorial thought. And for those of you that may have been drawn to my channel, I do cover elements of conspiratorial thought. But my main angle is how they're trying to, bait people into race war theology. And I do recognize weather weapons. But I think that some people are really not looking closer at certain things and maybe, giving mankind too much credit. I think that people don't give the sun enough credit for its influence over hurricanes, for its influence over certain things that man is not in control over. And as I've been saying for years, who's to say that the sun won't be part of a reset during a period in time in which we're seeing lots of war, lots of conflict, brother against brother, brother against sister, sister against brother. I think in the 2020s that we very well could see a frenzied killing spree, period, amongst elements of our population. Some of them may have been former trolls that nuts.